Welcome to Take Me to the Cloud, a place for business professionals to hear insights and best practices from industry experts that combine cloud systems, operations, supply chain, and finance.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us on another episode of Take Me to the Cloud. It's 2024, and we are so glad to be able to bring more content to our listeners this year. I'm your host, Melissa Holton, and today my co-hosts are Wally Merkus and Riley Larson. Hello, friends. How are we today?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
Doing good. Riley, how's it going?
Great.
Awesome. Well, today we are introducing a series of episodes on the types of job costing that can be captured in your ERP for manufacturing. This episode introduces the costs at a high level, and in later episodes, we'll bring in other industry experts to take a deeper dive for each. Riley, can you talk to our listeners a little bit about the types of job costing and what they might select?
Sure. There are 5 main types of costing that are available: average costing, standard costing, LIFO, FIFO, and lot numbered. Average is calculated as the total units available over a date range. The units have been divided by the beginning inventory cost plus the cost of additions to inventory. In, first out, the first goods purchased are assumed to be the first goods sold. Therefore, the ending inventory consists of the most recently purchased goods. This method is useful to track different shipments of similar products. In, last out, the last goods purchased are assumed to be the first goods sold. Therefore, the ending inventory consists of the first goods that were purchased. Wally will further elaborate on the standard costing.
Yeah, that's a nice overview, Riley. I think it's, as we go through some of those, I'm going to kind of change some of the order. I'm going to start with standard for manufacturers, which is a common costing method or type. So standard, you really essentially think of it this way. You're telling your cloud ERP what the cost of those materials will be. So for example, let's say I buy something and it's $5. I might say my standard cost is varying. So sometimes it's $5, sometimes it's $6, sometimes it's $7. So to standardize that, I might say I'm bringing it in at $6. So my standard cost is $6. And then as I bring those materials in, it could go all over the place, but I'm running my costing on my $6 variable. And so anything changed from that element would then go to a variance account so that I could track it and move it. Think of the craziness we've all seen in the supply chain. And as those variances go up and down over the last few years, that would be captured in the variance where I could still have a standard cost. Help you diagnose where the issues and challenges are. Conversely, if I look at average costing, which is a common, excellent place for most companies to start when they haven't really embarked down a costing method, average allows you to sort of bring in. So let's say I brought products in at $10, and then next, a week later, I brought some in at $15, and then a month later, I brought some in at $13. Now I've got an average over a period of time of whatever that average. So let's say it's about $12.50. Now what'll happen is when I go to do the job costing on this particular product being used in manufacturing, it would cost everything out at the average, at the going average today. So at the $12.50. Most of the cloud-based ERPs in manufacturing, like NetSuite, will allow you to take that average cost and use it by location. So if I had different variants across location on my average cost, it will cost me more to say ship it to the West Coast than it does the East Coast where I have my manufacturing, or, Central North America, the same concept. It would allow me to add that variance and bring it in. What I lose is the wildness and the fluctuations. I won't have that. So if you think of something in the supply chain on the craziness we've had in a few years, I might bring something at $30 in and something at $10. So now I've got this wide average variant, and it won't allow me to capture any of those variances. What it'll do instead is put the costing all on that average range. So that's average. When I go to FIFO and LIFO, really these are benefits for the company to take advantage of costing in whatever methodology they want to take advantage. So if I look at first in, first out, essentially that means the items I purchased first are the items I sold first. So first in, first out. So if I brought something in at $4 a year ago, and now I'm paying $10 for it. When it goes out the door, until those units sell, it is all going to sell at that original amount. So it'll do its costing based on the amount that came in from a year ago. So if I think of my wild variation, a year ago, let's say it was $5, and today I'm buying it at $30, it's going to be selling it out at $5 cost, which means my COGS or my margin might be falsely inflated with that wild swing. Conversely, last in, first out, similar concept, just reversed. Now what will happen is, in that same analogy, the $30 would now be what I would use in the COGS. So now my margins would be squeezed, and maybe there's reasons I want to do that business-wise. So those are really the variance between LIFO and FIFO.
Wally, are there industry standards? Like, does it depend on the type of product that a company might use one over the other?
That's an interesting question. I think it varies based business to business. Not so much that there's an industry standard, but there are reasons for ways that I want to present my margin. For tax benefits, they may want to have, a margin squeeze and variances on that. So those are typically the reasons why someone might go for FIFO, LIFO, average. And you notice I'm leaving standard separate. To me, standard is almost, most companies will eventually, manufacturing companies will eventually end up using a standard to get to the variance analysis that you need as a manufacturer. So I know I skirted the question, Melissa, but it's a tough one to answer because you're getting right into the business of them.
Sure. Yeah. And we can dive deeper into that standard costing in other episodes that we have planned.
For sure. I just want to finish on lot expiry and serialized. Very similar. Lot expiry or anything with an expiry now sort of changes a little bit. So you could still have FIFO, LIFO with lot expiry. You could have the lot expiry on its own, so that I need to use those products. And it typically, lot expiry is more on the FIFO side, first in, first out, because I have an expiry on those particular items. Lots are interesting because in ERPs and cloud ERPs, they're going to force you to go to the lot that they want you to go to. So imagine operationally, if I'm looking at lot expiry, I have to go to the shelf and I have to scan and select the one it wants. So if my shelves aren't up to date, meaning the person putting those products on the shelves aren't fronting that product, then I'm going to have a challenge finding the right product that's going to scan and say, yes, that is the lot that you need to send out. So there are some challenges operationally with lot and lot number. So it's just something to think about as you go through and do that process. So I think I walked through all of them there, Melissa and Riley, as we think about job costing.
Yeah, no, that's great. And thank you both for your insight there. For our listeners, we will be talking more in depth in future episodes that will likely come out in the next month. So please stay tuned for a deeper dive into job costing, where we'll bring in other industry experts to talk us through those processes. Wally and Riley, thank you so much for joining me today. And thanks to our listeners. We hope you'll catch us on another episode of Take Me to the Cloud.
You've been listening to Take Me to the Cloud. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to be alerted of new episodes. For more information, visit withum.com.